to ensure that every financial decision takes climate change into account. It means investing for net zero going mainstream.
Got some big announcements here today. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, Mark Carney announcing support for the lumber industry. And you might think some funding to keep things going, but don't worry. He was able to tie this into his carbon agenda. We got a bunch of other stuff here. Let's jump into this. Let's start this one off with this. So this is the result of the tariffs in America. So DJI, this is a drone producer. They're the biggest drone provider in the world. In Canada, this is unheard of. You can see they just released this new Osmo 360 camera, $430 US in Canada on the website, $550 US in America. This is unreal. Normally, this would be the other way around. In comparison, so $430 is what the Canadian price, because this wouldn't have changed. In America, they would have offered this camera for probably $299, maybe $330, something like that. So this is having a huge impact in America. Moving ahead, we've got this one from Table Salt. It says they turned the house into a third world farm. Tenants had turned the yard into farmland and dumped several truckloads of manure on top of where her well sits. PEI landlord says the 4 people she thought she was renting to turned out to be a family of 12. Here's why she's trying to evict them. This is insane. I mean, you get people coming in and don't know the rules or laws or don't care, and they'll do this, bring in manure and transform your whole yard. You end up with 12 people instead of 4 in the house. Who's actually paying the rent? It might be Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada. Probably is. Taxpayers are paying the rent. Moving ahead, Mark Carney with a press conference here, announcing supports for the lumber industry. This is broken down into 2 points. The first one, financial support. The second one, though, is very curious.
The first pillar is to give our companies that need liquidity, that liquidity, in order to address immediate pressures. To do so, we'll provide up to $700 million in loan guarantees. This will ensure that forestry companies of all sizes have the competitive financing they need to maintain and restructure, if necessary, their operations during a period of profound transformation.
That's quite the wording there. Profound transformation. That's how he labels, I wasn't able to get a deal.
Second, to make the softwood lumber industry more competitive for the long term, we will provide an additional $500 million, largely in grants and contributions to supercharge new product development and new market diversification. Products such as reinforced timber and low carbon wood fiber based insulation materials that are used in prefabricated and modular housing.
I'm sorry, what? You're going to give out $500 million for low carbon prefabricated insulation? I mean, you can hear the alarms behind me. The alarms are going off. This is a green grift. Who's going to get that money? Brookfield? Grants from the government? $500 million? Brookfield, open the bank accounts. Let's shuffle you over some money. Last I checked, trees suck in carbon, Mark. They're not low carbon. They're full of carbon. And they like it that way. This guy's such a snake.
These investments will increase domestic processing and value added, particularly as technology changes the way we build.
The only value added is to his own bank account.
Prefabricated and modular housing are the future. They can drive down time to completion by up to 50%. They can reduce costs by up to 20%, emissions by over 20% compared to traditional construction methods. And Canada should be the world leader in this new industry. And as you can see here, we're already well positioned to do so.
Yeah, this guy's well positioned to enrich himself. So that segment there talking about Modular Group, Brookfield Business Partners owns Modular Group, a modular house company, but this took some digging. You know what Mark Carney also owns? Indirectly owns shares in this. This is Atco. They're also a modular housing company based out of Toronto. Here's Atco, $50 stock price. And what we're looking at here is the top institutional holders, and who is one of the top? BlackRock. You can see they have 2.9 million shares. And I still have to look through these other companies. Most notably this Centgraph Enterprises. They're holding 34% of the company. But going back to BlackRock, well, who owns BlackRock? Of course, it's Mark Carney. It's right there. BlackRock Funding Inc. He's indirectly invested in this company as well. And I bet there's going to be a bunch of these. There's just so many of these stocks that it's really hard to pick through all of them and find what's attached to what. On the previous video, we had Pierre Poilievre talking about digital currency and how he would never impose that on Canadians. We already have digital currency. He pointed that out. There isn't a bunch of boxes, one for each of us with cash in the bank. It's all digital. We're already digital, but they want to centralize this in the government. And this clip here really sums it up. It says the EU is gearing up to launch its central bank digital currency, the digital euro, in October this year. And then they go on to brag about a country in the world that already has a digital currency, the one that they're praising in this video. You know what country it is? It's China.
Many people are a little worried about what will happen to them with the digital euro. Can you encourage them? Why is the digital euro good for people like you and me?
A digital currency where it has been piloted, and there is only one which is clearly now launched in a very small country, but it is piloted on a fairly large scale in China, is of use and of service to all citizens. So it is not something that is good for the elite, or is good for the young, or is good for some versus others. If it is well done and if it is well implemented, it would be of service to all citizens.
Remember Canada, Carney said we were the most European, non-European country and signed us up without our consent, without parliamentary discussion with the EU and WHO. Now they're coming for the money in our bank accounts and we'll decide what we get to do with it. That's it right there. And regarding the small country she's talking about, I believe is Jamaica. They launched the Sand Dollar, which is a CBDC. As for China, they have a digital version right now that's partially functional, the digital renminbi. It works for any sort of government stuff, disbursements, salaries, also if you're going to buy a bus ticket or anything like that. So China's on their way. And Mark Carney, he's going to take us along this route. He's going to follow his master Xi Jinping. They want full control of our money. And what is he going to do with our money? He's going to force us to buy eco-green carbon crap to enrich himself. Look at this clip here coming from February 27th, 2020. He says it quite clear what his mission in life is.
So the objective for the private finance work this COP26 is simple: to ensure that every financial decision takes climate change into account. And to do so, we'll work with you, the private sector, to put in place the right market frameworks so that you can do what you do best, which is to allocate capital, to manage risks, and to seize opportunities across the economy and across the world.
He's going to put in a framework. This was his GFANS bullcrap that he came up with that some companies are using. And he wants every financial decision to incorporate climate change. And why is that? Because he's got stocks on the back end that he'll profit from.
It means investing for net zero going mainstream.
No, Carney. I can't believe people voted this guy in. Too many Canadians voting from the hip versus really learning who these people are. The sad thing too is if we have an election right now, he'd probably win again because Canadians still don't know who this guy is because the CBC's never going to tell them. Moving back to Mark Carney's press conference here. First up gets a question on Donald Trump and whether he's had recent negotiations with him.
Hi, Prime Minister Carney. Brady Strachan, CBC Kelowna. Have you spoken to Donald Trump in recent days, and will you retaliate with more counter tariffs, including on American steel, or countermeasures or lift countermeasures already in place?
Thank you for the question. I haven't spoken to the president in recent days. We'll speak when it makes sense.
This is interesting. After watching that video the other day of Mark Carney lying about semiconductors, he really likes to look sideways in that video, at least, when he was telling that big lie, and he just did it again there. The question is, does he want to fail? Is this intentional? Or is he not wrapped in with Trump's plans? It's hard to know.
With respect to steel specifically, we announced a comprehensive approach on steel 2 weeks ago, which included significant support for repositioning, significant support for Buy Canadian, and with respect to, if I can draw some distinctions, with respect to softwood lumber, obviously the core of the demand domestically, not all of it, but the core of the demand, or much of the increase in demand, can be through our new approach to home building in this country.
Our new approach to home building. What is that, Mark Carney? Modular housing, like the two companies I just showed that this guy's invested in? This is disgusting. He has to be thrown out of power. He's not serving Canadians. He is green grifting his own bank account as prime minister. Why is he even allowed to be here? Throw him out.
Steel, the defense procurement comes into play. The broader infrastructure investments is part of our...
So he just goes on to ramble and ramble. You know, he's talking, 2 weeks ago, we did this, that on steel and aluminum when the question was clearly about Donald Trump and talking to him. He can't answer the question because Trump is ghosting him. So next up, check out this question. Mark Carney completely short circuits on this one. He doesn't know how to answer this question. So we've got a journalist from Kelowna now. So it's a local journalist asking a real question about if he's going to bring back news on Facebook because the wildfires are rampant and spreading that news on Facebook would make life a lot safer for Canadians. Look at this.
It was referenced here earlier today, the Peachland wildfire.
Yeah.
And it brought crystal clear again to local media how we disseminate information quickly and effectively. Bill C-18 stands in our way to get back onto Facebook and Instagram. Are the Liberals looking for an alternative or rescinding that so that we can get that news back on those important platforms?
I'll say this, Steve. Thank you for the question. First thing, and one of the things that we have done, and I'll answer your specific question.
Listen to this. This sounds exactly like Chrystia Freeland answering a question. And I will.
But let me make a point on something we have done, which is, and you may not like this part of the answer, but I'm going to give it to you, which is that one of the roles of CBC Radio Canada is to provide unbiased, immediate local information, particularly in terms of in situations such as you're referring to. And that's one of the reasons why we've made the commitment to invest and reinforce and actually change the governance of CBC Radio Can to ensure that they are providing those essential services.
That's right. Give more money to the CBC because they're not biased at all. They'll help people out for sure. CBC's got Canada's back. No need for sharing news on Facebook because that wouldn't make sense.
Now, to your specific question, I personally, and this government is a big believer in the value of what you do. I'm going to use you as a representation in local news, and the importance of ensuring that is disseminated as widely and as quickly as possible. So we will look for all avenues to do that. And I understand your question, and it's part of our thinking around that. Thank you.
We understand your question. We're going to look for all avenues. Well, what does that mean? That meant nothing. He didn't answer the question. He didn't know how to answer the question. And he just gobbled and gooped around, then said how great CBC is. That's why they're getting more money. What is this? This guy is such a loser. We're not dumb, Carney. We can see what's going on here. King Pit Viper here isn't going to bring back news on Facebook, but he will give more money to the CBC. In contrast, we got Donald Trump here. Look at this. So he is getting rid of birthright citizenship, sanctuary city funding, a whole bunch of stuff.
Those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
I'm in full support of that stuff. We need that in Canada. The refugee resettlements, I mean, it's already cost us $2.6 billion. Or we could just shut the border and fix our country and have our citizens prosper. It's an easy choice. Moving ahead, we have quite the situation here. So this is coming from the biggest newspaper in Germany, Bild, just exposed what other media outlets are trying to hide. The deliberate staging of chips and hummus propaganda by photographers in Gaza that are later sold for tens of thousands of dollars to Western media outlets to create false narrative, to demonize Israel and strengthen the chips and hummus. So instead of going through all this article here, this image sums it up. This is what's going on. Staging photos to create outrage. And with a good photo like this, they can sell it for thousands of dollars because it fits the narrative. This is disgusting. What's funny too is I've seen this photo from this lens here. And the main thing to note here, there's no food. There's literally no food here. This is all staged. And I don't think the whole situation over there is staged, but obviously they are staging photos to get more outrage, to get more support and funding and money, all this kind of stuff. There's 21 million people in Yemen who don't have enough food and are starving. You don't see any staging coming from there. In comparison, there's only 2 million in Gaza. That's just one example. There's like 15 examples I could bring up of more people in bad conditions that need help more than Gaza. This situation here, where you have Palestinians all over Western countries causing havoc and disruption in all of our cities with deep funding from George Soros and all of it, like all this crap needs to end. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. There's a clip, I'm not going to play it, but it's like one of these chips and hummus leaders on national television saying that the sole goal of the chips and hummus crew is to wipe out Israel. There's no two-state solution, and they do it over and over and over again. And even talks about that there has to be sacrifices, and that's fine to wipe them out. What we're seeing here are some examples of these staged photos. Get the pots and pans ready. This is wow. All staged photos. Oh, here's someone posting a video of it. Wow, look at all these news media using these photos. The question is now how many of these photos are real? Are any of them real? A couple of them? None of them. Obviously, their city's been completely obliterated, so there's some level of suffering going on, but the people are still not revolting against the chips and hummus that they voted in. You know, it's a lot like what's going on here in Canada. We've got an absolute corrupt government, and yet the people still voted them back in. People are so stubborn, they won't change, they don't like the truth, they don't like being wrong. It's a whole bunch of factors.